the session. So guys, I welcome you all to the session number 1 for OSB. Okay, this is a much awaited batch. So I was planning to start with this batch from quite a few time, and now finally we have got started with this. So before we actually start discussing the technical stuff, I would like to know about each one of you, though we already had a conversation, but formally we are joining for the first time. So I would like to know about each one of you and how much you rate yourself in Oracle SOA suite, because this training would be somewhere or other related with Oracle SOA suite. There would be a lot of topics, there would be a lot of jargons which we have already discussed in Oracle SOA suite and would be used over here. So I'll start with you, Bindu. So would like to know what is your expectation from the training, and how much do you feel have you got expertise on Oracle SOA suite? I mean, are you proficient, or what is your level of expertise in Oracle SOA suite?
Yeah, I have worked on SOA, but I never worked on OSB. I want to be expertise in OSB as well. I have 3 years experience on SOA.
Okay, great. Fine. What about you, Rama?
Yes. So I've been working in Oracle DPM, 11G.
Okay.
I also have a work on source suite. So, on source suite also, and I have sort of some 6.5 experience.
Okay, great. What about you, Robin?
The expectation is, Sumit, from my end, I need a project, something like a real-time project. It can be from the end to end, so that we'll get some idea at the end of this session. Not this session, at the end of the class. So, along with the classes, whatever you are teaching, right? So, along with that, I'm expecting some project also. So that is one thing.
Okay, fine. Sure, I'll look into that. What about you, Robin?
Yeah, Sumit. Like I have nearly 7 years of experience, but mostly I worked on Oracle DPM. I worked on Oracle SOA suite, but it's like you can say it's an intermediate knowledge I have. I have not worked like thoroughly hands-on experience on SOA.
Okay, that's fine. So that's fine, guys. So first I'll explain you like how my training goes. Few of you might have already seen my videos on Oracle SOA, or I think Bindu has already subscribed for my Oracle SOA videos also. So I have a tendency to use a notepad. I don't prefer using PPTs and all, because what happens is all the content is written over there, and the trainee gets bombarded with a lot of content at a time, which is difficult to decipher. So when we take it step by step, it is little easier for the trainee to understand. And next thing is, like, when we say, let's say we have planned 30 hours of training for this OSB, so initial 4 or 5 hours would be on theoretical aspects. But when I say theoretical, it would not be typical theory where I would be reading out some certain sentences. Okay, it won't be that way, but we would understand what exactly is OSB, what forms the basis of OSB, and how this have originated, what were the things before OSB came into the picture, and how it is different from SOA suite. When do you go for OSB, when to go for SOA suite? Because this is a common question which most of the people have when they get started with OSB. And even when you go for the interviews, like, you need to understand like, on what basis do we need to decide, like, for this implementation, are we supposed to use OSB or SOA, and like, are they mutually exclusive of each other, or can we use them in conjunction with each other? So all these answers, okay, would be given in this session. Please feel free to interrupt me wherever you feel you are not following, okay? And let's make sure that even silliest of the doubt gets clarified before we end the session for today, okay? Uh, and make sure you get clarification about each and every jargon we use, because what happens is, in a lot of trainings we use a lot of words, okay? We just mug up those words as is, but we don't understand the internal meaning of those, because of which we are always in a dilemma, okay? So that should not happen. So here we go with session number 1 for OSB. So before I basically get started with OSB, so I generally say, like, there are certain prerequisites to understand each and every technology or tool. Okay, so for example, for SOA we had prerequisite as XML. Similarly, here also there are certain prerequisites to to understand. Okay, and please excuse me for the spelling mistake which we make while writing this stuff, because when we type very fast it tends to happen, and sometimes I don't correct it. So before I get started, you people need to understand very clearly what is SOA. Okay, what does it mean? I don't want you to say SOA means service oriented architecture. This anybody can tell, but when you go for the interviews, it's not the expectation. So you should very clearly be able to understand what is this architecture. You must be knowing what is orchestration. You must be knowing what is XSD. You must be knowing what is WSDL. You should be knowing what is XPath. When I say XSD WSDL, I mean to say you should know what is its use, how these are different from each other. Okay, I don't want you to be 100% proficient in all these different languages like XSD WSDL, but you should have an idea. Okay, then XSLT, then we have XQuery, and one very important thing is you should know what is enterprise service bus. Okay, what is loose coupling. So these are the few things which I feel a person must be aware of before he gets started with OSB, because I have seen a lot of trainers, what do they do is they start with the hands-on directly, so which is little difficult to follow. So I will take it one by one. Okay, and wherever you are comfortable we will move to switch to other topic quickly. So let me ask you guys, and please don't mind me asking questions. I have a tendency to ask a lot of questions from the people so that it always remains a two-way interaction. So what do you think, what is SOA? Anyone? Okay, don't give me the full form, that is service oriented architecture, but what do you think is a SOA?
SOA is a set of rules, and it's an architectural style that you can build these applications. Mostly, using the loosely coupled services, like, where we can where we have a agility, and where we can expand any services whenever we require without disturbing the other components.
Absolutely correct. So I would define it this way: it is an architectural style of building business applications using loosely coupled services. Okay, when we say loosely coupled services, these would be nothing but our web services, and people also say web services is the way to implement SOA, because SOA is a concept, SOA is an architecture, like OOPS is a concept, okay, which has been implemented in different languages. Similarly, SOA is an architectural style which allows you to build business application using loosely coupled services, which acts as black boxes. When I say black boxes, means these are independent of each other, mutually exclusive of each other, and these can be orchestrated together to achieve some business functionality. Okay, so this is how we define it. Or in layman language, we can also say SOA is an architecture which allows or which gives a solution to integrate two or more systems. Okay, using this architecture, we design solution which helps in integration of different systems. That is one thing. Now, next important terminology which you would always come across when you work in Oracle SOA Suite or OSB is orchestration. So what do you think is orchestration? Anyone? Anybody has an idea what is orchestration? Okay, we'll take from Robin.
Yeah.
Robin, what do you think is orchestration?
Yeah, orchestration is a style of integrating different web services, followed by it follows a particular pattern. Like once service is integrated, then only we can do another service.
Okay, absolutely correct. So we can say the process of combining discrete set of services into single unit is called as orchestration, and which is the component we have in Oracle SOA Suite which helps in doing the orchestration. Can anybody tell me the name of that component?
DeepL.
Yes, DeepL. Yes, people is a component which helps us doing in orchestration, and people stands for business process execution language, right? So this is about orchestration. Now, are you guys aware about namespaces? What exactly are namespaces?
Namespace is like a
Yes.
you need to define an element of a particular XSD.
So there are multiple uses of namespace. One of the use I say is whenever we have two or more elements with the same name but different context, then we use the concept of namespace to avoid
Ambiguity.
the ambiguity. Okay, so because why I'm asking all this is because I know you all come from Oracle SOA background, but if somebody would be attending this training fresh, he won't understand all these terminologies. So I just want to make it generic, and I want to ensure that you guys are aware about this. And this namespace is always defined with the help of attribute XML and S, right? Okay. And the value of this namespace can be any string, though as per industry standards we keep some URL because the tendency of the URL to be to be similar or to be duplicate is very less. That's why we keep some URL over here, but it can be any string. Now within namespace we have something called as target namespace. We have something called as default namespace. Okay, so can anybody tell me what is target namespace?
If you want to refer to the current XML document elements, then
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. It is the convention of an XML doc which allows its elements to be referred in future. Okay, whatever you said is absolutely correct. And default namespace is nothing but any namespace without prefix. Any namespace without prefix is called as default namespace. And in an XML doc we can have at max, how many default namespaces can we have? One or
One.
yes, or there might be scenarios where we have 0 default namespaces, okay, but we can never have more than one. So that is one another thing. What is prefix? Prefix is an alias to namespace, right? When I say alias means it is a shortcut to represent the same namespace again and again, so we use a shortcut, okay? So I think you are aware. And now one next thing is, what is XSD? It stands for
XSD is a schema. XML schema.
XML schema definition. So it is a XML based language which allows you to define the structure of XML, because whenever you expose your service to the service consumer cannot send any XML whichever he feels like. He needs to follow certain rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations are written in a file called as XSD. Okay, and this itself is a XML based file. Can anybody tell me what is the root element in XSD file?
definition, schema.
Schema is the root element. Schema is the root element in an XSD file, right? Okay, and within that we have again multiple sub elements. So I think you are aware, so I'm not taking it here once again. If you feel there is a topic about which you don't have understanding, okay, so I already have my sections on XML. I will share those videos across. If you feel you need to brush up, you can do that using those. Okay. Next thing is WSDL. Now my question is, how many types of WSDL do we have?
There are two types of WSDL, abstract and absolute.
Absolutely correct. We have two types of WSDL, abstract and the concrete WSDL. And what is the difference between these two?
Concrete WSDL,
yes, concrete WSDL is also called as complete WSDL, which has the information about the service location as well as binding and transport info, whereas abstract WSDL is the one which is more preferably used at the time of the development. It just has information about the operation and the message types, right, and the schema. schema definition is there within this. Now XPath is a XML based language which is used to navigate, or which helps us to navigate within an XML doc. Okay, so if we have to point to any element, so we make use of this XPath. And XSLT is used to basically, convert one format of language into another. So we have one data structure which is required to be converted into some other data structure. We use XSLT, and even we use XQuery for that. So we'll see, actually in our source code we see XSLT is more frequently used from 12c onwards. Okay, now like the latest version we have in the market is 12c. Okay, so 12c onwards we have the support for XQuery also within your Oracle source code also. Earlier there was no XQuery support in Oracle source code 12c up till Oracle source code 11g, but from 12c onwards we have got XSLT as well as XQuery. Okay, and in OSB earlier also we had XSLT and XQuery both, but we prefer to use more XQuery over here. Okay, XQuery is more easy to use and it is more commonly used. So we'll see, once we start hands-on, we'll see different examples of XQuery being used, how it helps in doing the mapping from one format to another. Now now these were the prerequisites. I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of this, and I feel you are well versed with all these terminologies. So enterprise is nothing but it is some giant business, okay, some chain business firm, okay, who, like for example you can say Domino's runs an enterprise, okay, Big Bazaar is an enterprise in retail sector. So these are the different companies who runs their some business in different domains. It might be in telecom domain, it might be in retail domain. So there are different domains which we have. Now what is enterprise service bus? So if you go through the net you will find a lot of definitions. So I always have a tendency to first give layman definition and then make it more technical. So I will say it is a solution for integration. Okay, it is a solution for integration, right? And loosely coupling we have already discussed. So what happens is, integration is always the need of enterprise. What does that mean? That means like within an enterprise we have different departments. So let's say we have different departments. We may have finance department, we may have inventory department, we might have HR department, okay, we might have a quality department. So there are different departments within an enterprise, and each department tends to use certain systems. Okay, each department uses certain applications, certain ERPs to basically store the each department uses different ERPs, okay, maybe CRM or some customized applications to manage their individual department effectively. But on a whole you have to understand, okay, that company on a whole needs to make sure that the data which is there in the different applications of enterprise of finance department has to somehow communicate with the things which are there in inventory, and sometimes we need to club this data to basically create certain reports, to take some business decisions, to understand the growth of the business, to decide the revenue of the company. So there is always need of integration among these discrete applications. Okay, so these applications which are there within different departments might be created in different technologies. These might be running under different platform, and these might come from different vendors altogether. So what I'm trying to say is these might not be compatible to each other directly. Okay, so there is no direct way to communicate with each application directly. So for example, I have a diagram over here. So let's think it this way. These are the different small boxes which you see represents different systems. Okay, like system 1, system. So here we have 4 systems which are required to integrate with each other. So now when this OSB and all was not there into the picture, so let's say there is a system A which needs to communicate with system B. So there used to be point-to-point integration. See, point-to-point integration means there is a direct communication between two parties. Okay, and we write some customized code for these applications so that these can communicate with each other. Okay, and the mode of the communication more preferably will be the XML. So this is how this communication happens. This communication looks good when the number of systems in an enterprise are less. Okay, but when your enterprise grows and the number of systems within an enterprise grows, what happens is your complexity increases. How does that increase? For example, there is one more system which gets added in an enterprise, that is C. So now we would need to write the customized code to connect A with C, C with B. Okay, so with each system getting added, the the task or the coding would increase. Okay, the overhead increases and it takes more time. Apart from that, okay, we can write customized code also, but there is a direct coupling. These all systems are tightly coupled with each other. Let's say one of the system upgrades, so there is a system C which upgrades, then what we need to do is we need to make the changes at the A and also at the B end also. So what happens is this all results into the slow growth of the business. So our enterprise is not ready to take some fastest changes, so it reduces the growth of our business. So to overcome this challenge, okay, we needed some loosely coupled solution. What do we understand by loosely coupled solution? Loosely coupled means when two systems which are required to be integrated are minimally dependent on each other. So the systems which are required to be integrated, the systems which are required to be integrated has to be minimally dependent on each other, or I can say these have to be independent of each other. So how is that possible? So what do we do is, for that, let's say there is a system A which is required to communicate with system B. So in between we bring some layer. In between we bring some layer. So let's say I bring some layer called as enterprise service bus. Okay, just make it a point, we have not started talking about OSB as of now. What does this enterprise service bus do? This enterprise service bus is a solution, it is acting as a solution, is a loosely coupled solution of integrating different different enterprise applications. Okay, so we also use the terminology EAI, that is nothing but enterprise application integration. So ESB is nothing but a way to integrate different enterprise applications which are used within a enterprise, or maybe there are two different enterprises which might need to communicate with each other. So ESB is a simple layer, okay, which says that two systems which need to talk to each other need not to know about each other directly. So here system A need not to know anything about system B. These are completely independent of each other. Each and every system which comes into the future also needs to just establish the connectivity with B. So it's like plug and get started, plug and play kind of architecture. So any system which is required to be added can be easily added in this kind of architecture without impacting all the existing systems. And also, if there is a failure in one system, it would have a very minimal impact on other systems. So this ESB is a solution of integrating different systems in a unified manner. When I say unified manner, what I mean to say is that
Sumit,
these.
Sumit,
Mhm.
what is the difference between SOA and ESB then?
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So, so first of all, it is achieving the loosely couple. It is achieving the loosely couple mechanism. Now, a very good question, which she said, what is the difference between SOA and OSB? See, whenever you do an integration, there are three approaches of doing that. You use integration suite, you use service bus or nothing but enterprise service bus, or you use integration framework. These are the three ways of doing it. So when we talk about Oracle SOA suite, this is a suite. When we say talk about OSB, it is a service bus. And integration frameworks we might have in some Java has got some integration frameworks which allows you to do the uh, integration between different systems. Now when we talk about the difference between ESB or Oracle SOA suite, you have to understand this ESB or whatever we are talking as OSB and Oracle SOA suite. These all follow SOA principles. So a lot of people say what is the difference between SOA and OSB? So I would say you cannot say there is any difference between SOA and OSB, because OSB is a product which comes under Oracle SOA Suite family of products. So which comes under Oracle SOA family of products. So let me explain this. So Oracle has implemented some products where it is using service oriented architecture. Okay, one of the product is like Oracle SOA Suite. Another product is OSB. So these two products both are using service oriented architecture only, because service oriented architecture, what does that say? Service oriented architecture says that there will be a service consumer and there will be a service provider, and the exchange of the messages would happen in among this service consumer and service provider. So service oriented architecture says that you use the concept of web services, and these there will be parties called as service consumer and service provider who will exchange the messages. That's what SOA says. Because what people do is they try to get confused between SOA, Oracle SOA Suite and ESB. So you have to understand SOA is a concept which is an open standard that can be implemented by, that has been implemented by IBM, that has been implemented by Oracle and some other companies as well. Now Oracle has got some category of the products where they are leveraging SOA architecture. Oracle SOA Suite is one of the products. So you can say that is an integration suite. Okay, now when you say suite means there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things clubbed. That is called a suite. Okay, if you see the dictionary meaning of suite, which means you have clubbed different things. Now OSB also is one of the Oracle products where they are leveraging service oriented architecture only. Okay, so if I say here ESB, it internally means I'm using SOA principles here in ESB also. So SOA principle remains intact in your enterprise service bus also. Now enterprise service bus is a very generic terminology. You have to understand ESB is a very generic terminology. ESP basically gives certain principles and you follow those principles, okay, to give your own solution. So OSB is one of the ESBs. OSB is one of the ESB given by Oracle, which follows SOA principles. But the question comes, if Oracle SOA Suite is also following SOA principles, OSB is also following SOA principles, then what is the need of two different tools? Right? So, but I will take that part. First of all, any doubts so far over here? So if somebody is getting out, I can say we can use Oracle SOA Suite also over here to achieve the loose coupling. I'm not saying we cannot do that. But enterprise service bus has certain additional features, okay, some preferable features which has to be there in enterprise service bus, and the most important feature in a service bus is it has to be lightweight. It has to be a lightweight, but your integration suite is not a lightweight solution. The next feature which should be there in the service bus is it has to be stateless. But your integration suite, which is nothing but Oracle SOA Suite, it is a stateful solution. That's why it exactly does not fit into the enterprise service bus category, but definitely it is a solution which leverages service oriented architecture principles to connect two or more systems in a loosely coupled fashion. Are you understanding this?
Yeah. So what exactly this is the stateless?
Okay, I'll come to that. So you understand.
So what are the I mean, do you know any other implementations of this ESP other than this Oracle Service Bus?
See, we have Mule ESB. Like Oracle has given their ESB, there is Mule ESB, which is an open framework which helps in establishing the connectivity in a loosely coupled manner between systems. We use web methods. We use BizTalk. Okay, so this uses different mechanism. Okay, and now we are talking about the SOA principle. So you can do integration, you can develop integration framework in different ways, but we are talking about those integration solutions which are leveraging SOA principles. So Oracle SOA Suite is also leveraging SOA principles, and even your Oracle Service Bus is also leveraging the SOA principles. Both are leveraging SOA principles, and both lie into a category of products where Oracle is leveraging the service-oriented architecture. Because service-oriented architecture says there is a service consumer, there is a service provider. Okay, service provider develops a service which is nothing but a web service, and he exposes his web service with the help of a visual file, and service consumer would consume it. That's what SOA architecture says. Now even in OSB we are using the concept of web services only. Even in our Oracle SOA suite we are using the same concept, but there are against lot many other features which makes these two tools different, and then we have to understand our requirement, and accordingly we have to decide that which tool to go for. So as I told you that these both follow SOA principles, but again at the same time they have differences. So I told OSB is lightweight and this is not a lightweight solution, and one very important difference is your OSB is stateless and this is stateful. What does that mean? So first let me explain that one. So stateful means, it means the state of execution, which means payload, audit details are stored permanently in the database. Those people who have worked in the Oracle SOA suite or who have an idea about Oracle SOA suite, you might be knowing whenever you execute or whenever you run a request, an instance ID gets generated which you can see in the EM console, and all the details about that particular instance, that is whatever was the payload, okay, what all activities got executed, you can check those at any point in time. Even you come after 10 days you can check those, because those details are stored in the SOA infra schema. In the SOA infra schema, we have a lot of tables like cube instance, XML payload, etc., where we store all those details. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Yes. But stateless means these audit details, payload details are not stored in the database. Okay, these all details are not stored in the database. You run a request and you would get a response. There is no out of the box mechanism to store all that audit details permanently into the database, but if you want you can do it using some components in OSB. We can log those details, but there is no out of the box feature which basically save or which basically stores that complete info. That's why we call it is stateful and OSB stateless. And if we will have lesser DB interactions, then your tool will be comparatively faster, because when we'll have more DB interactions, more DB calls, it would take more time. The only advantage we have is we can do a better tracking. If something goes wrong, we would have a better tracking, but the disadvantage is your performance would be impacted. Okay, the tool would be comparatively slow with the one where there is no database interaction. Do you agree with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so to give more precise definition of ESB, I will say ESB, which stands for Enterprise Service Bus, implements a communication mechanism. Okay, it implements a communication mechanism between mutually interacting business applications in a service oriented architecture. So you don't try to just understand the difference between ESB and SOA, because these are two wrong things to be compared with. Okay, these cannot be compared because ESB is also leveraging SOA principles to integrate different applications. What you should try to understand is what is the difference between enterprise service bus and people. This has to be your question. Okay, or your question can be, when I go with Oracle SOA suite, when to go with Oracle SOA suite and when to go with OSB. Okay, so before that, first let's define what exactly is OSB. OSB is a lightweight ESB. So whatever I defined for ESB, that remains intact for OSB also, because I'm saying OSB is a lightweight ESB which has been acquired by Oracle from BA Systems, which was primarily known as Aqualogic Service Bus. Actually, this OSB product is not, a native product of Oracle. This product was earlier known as Aqualogic Service Bus, and it came from BA Systems. When Oracle acquired BA Systems, they incorporated some more functionalities and released it as OSB, which is called as Oracle Service Bus. Okay, and Oracle had one product called as OESB, Oracle Enterprise Service Bus, which they renamed as Mediator, and it was reintroduced as part of Oracle SOA suite. So if you try to understand, if you have worked in the previous versions of this Oracle SOA suite, you would really understand that there was nothing called as mediator earlier. Okay, if you see the Oracle SOA 10G, there was no mediator. The mediator has been introduced later. Once they acquired the Aqualogic Service Bus, they gave a separate product, Oracle Service Bus, and whatever was their in-house product, Enterprise Service Bus, they modified that and they introduced that as a one of the components in Oracle SOA suite. Okay, so now there are two products, okay, which are more commonly used for similar tasks. So I can say whatever task we do using Oracle SOA suite or Oracle Service Bus can be also done using Oracle SOA suite. I can say 90% of it, or at times 100% of it with some additional programming. But then what is the need to go for OSB? Because OSB requires less coding and it's more configurable. So it has the features that ESB. First is it is lightweight. That is one feature which was not there in Oracle SOA suite. The next feature of ESB has to be stateless, which was again there in OSB, which was not there in Oracle SOA suite. Then the third feature of ESB has to be that if at all new systems are added or if the existing systems are upgraded, the time to the time for the change to come into action, the time for your go live should be very less. Okay, so it has to involve less coding and it has to be more configurable, which is again the case with the OSB. And there are again certain additional features. For example, OSB supports out of the box throttling feature. When I say out of the box means these are inbuilt over there. You need not to write some additional program, or you need not to design some additional use case. You need not to make some additional effort to achieve that. So we can't say that we cannot achieve throttling in Oracle SOA suite. But that is not out of the box feature we have in Oracle SOA suite, that we just do certain configurations and we get throttling feature to use. But that is there in OSB. How many of you understand the terminology throttling? What exactly is throttling? So it is a process, throttling is a process of limiting the number of requests to the target system to some predefined value, irrespective of the number of requests we are receiving from the source system. So I'll explain you. So for example, you all might have heard about Tirupati temple. Okay, in our Andhra Pradesh, we have this Tirupati temple. Okay, so what happens in Tirupati temple is there are a lot of devotees who visit this temple every day. So now if all the devotees are allowed together, so it would create a mesh, or it will create a problem in the temple. So what do they do is, irrespective of the number of the devotees coming into the temple, they would allow only these many number of devotees, or they would allow some specific
Sumit,
number. Yeah.
uh, we cannot hear you. I mean, whenever you started, I would get a bit stop.
Okay, I think I lost my audio connection, but I hope you can hear me now.
Now it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll repeat myself. So I'm saying throttling is the process of limiting number of requests to the target system to some predefined value, irrespective of the number of systems, or irrespective of the number of requests we are receiving from the source system. So I was just trying to compare this to explain you throttling feature. I was just trying to take an example of Tirupati temple. So in Tirupati temple we have thousands of devotees visiting the temple each day. But if they allow all the 1,000 devotees at a time, it will always create a problem. There will be no system, okay, and it might lead to a problematic scenario. Now what do the what do the people do, those who are administration who is there? What do they do is, they allow some fixed number of devotees at a time, and when they see that they have completed the darshanam, then only they leave some another batch. By that what happens is, those devotees, the request which we are getting, those are getting queued up into some staging area, and when they see the resources or enough resources are available, then those requests will be sent to the target service. Because if we send a lot of requests to the target service at a time, we might end up in a scenario where we have no resources to cater to those requests, and our requests would start getting time out. So throttling allows you to basically catch all those requests into a staging area, and we would send only fixed number of requests to a target system, so that our target system doesn't encounter a scenario where we do not have enough resources, where we don't have enough threads to process those requests. Do you understand this?
Yes.
So this is one again feature. Then there is some feature like service pooling.
So before that, Sumit, can you explain this lightweight also?
See, lightweight automatically becomes, see, lightweight is because, for example, there are less components. So to explain that, in SOA suite we have human workflow support, right? So we have a component called as human task. We have business rules component. So there are a lot of components which are there out of the box available in Oracle SOA Suite, which allows you to basically make dynamic changes to your rules, which allows you to implement human workflow. So for example, if you have long running processes where you need certain approvals from concerned authorities, that kind of solution you can implement using Oracle SOA Suite, because it has varied components that allows you to achieve the required functionality in long running processes. But ESB has limited number of components. ESB does not support human workflow. ESB does not support business rules. So the number of components which we have in our OSB, when I use ESB, you understand it as OSB only now. So when we don't have those components in OSB, which makes it lightweight. And another thing is, since we have less DB interaction, so it will be faster as compared to Oracle SOA Suite. So the number of components and the number of out-of-the-box components we have are less. That's why it is not a suite. Suite means when we club so many things. So when we go to a hotel and we ask for suite, so what is there is a place, small place where you can, a living room kind of thing. There will be a balcony, there will be a small kitchen. So there are a lot of different features which are clubbed together, and that becomes a suite. But service bus means it has very limited features. It does not have those out of the box components, and this cannot be your solution for designing your long running processes. OSB is never a solution when you have to design a long running process which involves your workflows, which involves your rule engines, so that it does not fit over there. That's why it is a lightweight component which is basically used for doing something called as veto. I will explain what is veto. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so since I've introduced here, so I say OSB is a enterprise service bus acquired by Oracle from BA system, which was primarily known as Ecologic Service Bus, that follows service oriented architecture principles and helps in performing veto. What is veto? V is for validation, E is for enrichment, T is for transformation, and O is for operate. So these are the tasks which primarily OSB is used to do. But whenever a company releases a tool, if they have to make it very competent with other tools available in the market. So they come up with a lot of tools. They come up with a lot of options. But the primarily used option or the primarily used features of OSB are these four: validation, enrichment, transformation, operate. Apart from that, Oracle SOA suite, Oracle Service Bus has some out-of-the-box features also, which makes it more competent than other tools, than other enterprise service bus. Those are, one of those is throttling, another is service pooling. Do you understand this part?
Yes.
Okay. So what exactly is service pooling? Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so what does a service pool mean? So for example, there is a system A which is required to integrate with system B. So there is I'm assuming this is like some my portal which fetches some details from my database. Okay, so now because of some reason, maybe because of maintenance, my database is supposed to go down. Or so what I might have in my real time is I might have one more database which is the replica of the same database. Okay, so let's say there is one database which is hosted in US, there is another same database, C database, which is hosted in India. These both are replica of each other. Now I have a feature in OSB which where I can configure multiple replica target systems, and if any of those target systems are down, then OSB has the smartness to route to the available database or available target system. So what happens is we need not to do additional programming. So what I am saying is it's not that we cannot do this feature in Oracle SOA suite. We can do the fault handling, and in our fault handler we can invoke one more web service that can be done over there, but that would involve again more programming, that would involve more logical building, that is not configurable. So we don't have any place in Oracle SOA suite where we can configure three URLs and it would automatically check that if A is down, go to B, B is down, go to C, C is down, go to D. Such feature is not there in SOA. Do you understand? So service pooling feature of OSB allows you to incorporate multiple target systems, and if or multiple URLs of the target system, and if any of the target system is down, then request is automatically diverted to the available target system. Apart from that, there are more security related features about which we will discuss. There are more we can say monitoring features. Monitoring features, when I say, it means setting some LS, SLAs, creating the reports. Report is again one very very important feature we have in OSB, which is again not there in our SOA. So there is no out of the box feature which allows us to generate the reports. Okay, for example, I want to generate a report for all the orders whose amount was above $10,000. So do we have any out of the box feature in Oracle SOA suite for capturing all those details? We don't have it. So that's why OSB is a lightweight component with some additional out-of-the-box features. So it has all the features which an enterprise service bus should have, which means it is lightweight, it is stateless, it is more configurable. Then it has a throttling feature, it has service pooling feature, it has additional security feature, and it has support for varied protocols. Okay, so like when we have to send the email in Oracle SOA suite, we have to configure your UMS adapter, and there are a lot of things which you need to do, but those same thing are very easy to achieve over here. Okay, so I can say your Oracle SOA suite is required to be preferred in those scenarios where you have to do orchestration, where you have to develop some long running processes which involves human interaction. Okay, But where to use Oracle Service Bus? Where you have to do routing. So there are two systems where simple routing is required. Then preferred solution will be Oracle Service Bus, or where you need to do simple validation. Okay, where you need to do enrichment. What do you understand by enrichment?
Uh, Something like if you miss one of the fields in the payload.
So the process of adding or removing the elements in the payload is called as enrichment. I'll give you some examples also. Okay, apart from this, it can be also used for some other task which I told, like throttling, service pooling. Now, whatever, we have a lot of things to do the logic building also, but we don't prefer doing more logic building in this layer. Okay, and one very, very important feature for this Oracle Service Bus about which I have not talked so far is virtualization. This is a very, very important feature which you will come across in your real-time experience, that OSB is used for virtualization, and by adding that virtual layer we can use those out-of-the-box features which I was talking about. So when you will start working in the real time in OSB, you will see there are projects which involves both OSB as well as SOA. Okay, so in those projects what happens is the reason why we use OSB is because it acts as a virtual layer. So how it would go is, there is a system A, okay, and there is a system B. These are the systems we have. Now I am using SOA layer, okay, to do the orchestration and all. Before the SOA layer I will use OSB layer over here, and I might use OSB layer over here. Okay, or maybe only at one place I might use, that depends on my architecture. So I might use OSB layer just for the virtualization. More preferably we use only over here virtualization means, now what happens is whenever we expose our web services to the end user, we expose the endpoint URLs or the visitor URLs. So if the customer or if is not interested in exposing the direct endpoint URLs to the service consumers, then what they can do is they can build some virtual layer on the top of that, and though the URL of that virtual layer would be exposed to the end user. So the actual endpoint URLs will not be exposed to the service consumer. And by having this extra layer, we can leverage those features like service pooling, like throttling, like security features, like SLA features, reporting features. We will be able to leverage all those features which were not available in SOA. Okay, so there would be implementations where we use these both. There would be implementations where we use only SOA. There would be implementations where we use only OSB, but such implementations would involve simple, brokering of messages, means routing of messages from one system to another, transformation of the messages, such, but orchestration will not be part of such kind of solutions. Okay, whenever we have orchestration coming into the picture, or whenever we have to design business processes, whenever we have to automate business processes, then we will go for SOA only. So SOA is basically a solution, or when I say SOA means Oracle SOA suite. Okay, so SOA is an architecture which is a different thing, which both Oracle SOA suite is leveraging, OSB is leveraging. Then there are two different tools. One is Oracle SOA suite, other is Oracle Service Bus. Oracle SOA suite used for orchestration, and OSB used for veto, validation, enrichment, transform, and operate. Okay. Now I'm saying whenever we need to automate some business processes, then we prefer SOA. But whenever we have to do simple routing, simple transformations, or some enrichment of message, or we need to do certain validations, then we prefer using OSB. Any doubts so far? Any
So in
questions?
11G is OSB in 11G is OSB part of source with is part of same license or separate license?
Now they have a same license. Okay. Earlier these were two
In
different
11G it's
licenses.
different.
Yes. actually see, I will talk about that also. Now OSB, up till now whatever I've talked, I'm talking from 11G perspective. OSB had REST support in OSB 11G also. But if you see in SOA suite 11G, there was no REST support, or you can say there was minimal REST support. Okay, now gradually, the market is becoming more competent, and what Oracle is doing, Oracle has bundled both of these products into single unit. So they want, their both the products to be used. So because earlier what used to happen is, for OSB 11G, Eclipse is used as an IDE. IDE means nothing but integrated development environment. So we used to use Eclipse or one web-based console, which is also called as SB console. Okay, but in OSB 12C, what these guys have done is they have bundled everything into a single unit, and JDeveloper is used for development. Earlier we were using JDeveloper only for Oracle SOA suite. We could not do OSB development in JDeveloper, but now to make unified development environment, what they have done is they have bundled this SOA suite and OSB into a single unit, and JDeveloper itself can be used for development. Okay, now when I say, I will write here OSB or SOA 12C. Now in SOA 11G I told there was no REST support, but in SOA 12C we have REST support. Okay, so the intention of the Oracle is, very straightforward, that they want both the tools to be used, but they want basically, the people who have knowledge on SOA should also work on OSB, because they have come up with a unified development environment, and they just want you to understand that OSB is a virtualization layer. It is used for, it has to be used as a ESB. Okay, so you have to understand, it has to be used as enterprise service bus only. It cannot be used for complex logic building. It should not be used for long running processes. It cannot be used in the scenarios where we have human workflow coming into the picture. It cannot be used for the processes where you want your complete audit trail to be logged. So for those scenarios we don't have OSB, we have SOA suite. Okay, so whenever we say SOA, we ideally should say SOA suite, but what we do is, as a beginner, when we start, we get confused, we start comparing SOA and OSB, which goes wrong, because the comparison has to be between Oracle SOA suite and OSB, because these are the two different tools which are implementing or which are leveraging the SOA architecture. Okay, we'll come to the differences between OSB 11G and 12C. Don't worry about that. But on a higher note, let's understand what exactly is OSB, how it is different from SOA suite, and what are the use cases where we can go for OSB. What are the additional features we have in OSB which are missing from SOA suite? Any questions so far?
Sumit, can you just explain what again the service pooling?
Come again, I cannot get you.
Service pooling process. Can you explain what again?
Service pooling.
Yeah.
Okay. See, service pooling is nothing but a process where you can route your services. Okay, you can route your request to the target system, and that target system can be decided at the runtime based on the availability. So for example, this is one host and this is another host. So when I configure my solution, I will configure two hosts for this solution, which are nothing but replica of each other. Now what OSB is capable of doing is, let's say if one of my target system is down, then it can automatically route the request to the available target system, because I have configured multiple target systems, okay, or multiple options for the target system, and dynamically at the runtime it can decide based on the availability of the system that which target system should the request should be routed. So there are different endpoint URLs. If one of them goes down also, then also still I will not get a remote fault or my system service is unavailable, OSP is smart enough to route the request to the available host.
Same thing we can't do it in Sua, right?
See, I cannot say we can't do it. How we can do is, let's say we got a fault, then in my fault handler I can invoke one more service. Suppose I am invoking one service and I got a fault, then programmatically I can achieve this, but this is not an out of the box feature.
Okay.
See, it's something like when you have to connect with a database, what we use in Oracle Source Suite, we use DB adapter. Okay, let's say there is a Java application which has to connect with DB and I'm using Oracle Source Suite as a middle layer, then I'm using DB adapter. But can't I connect with Java, can't I connect DB and Java directly without using this Oracle Source Suite layer?
Yeah,
We can do it. We have the concept of JDBC, right? But what is the advantage of using SUA? That things come out of the box. Do we need to do any programming? Do we need to do any coding? Do we need to think about the session management? Do we need to think of the transaction management? So those things are inbuilt, those things are internally taken care of. Or maybe there would be certain properties whose significance is required to be understood just for the management purpose, but you need not to do the coding. So like there is a layer of abstraction behind that all code, and we are given an adapter, a ready to use component. But internally, if you just try to see, there is a lot of Java code which is written, which internally runs whenever you use this inbuilt adapters. So same thing is happening over here. There are some inbuilt features, okay, which are not, for which we don't need any coding, which are ready to use in OSB.
okay.
Okay, any other questions from anyone? Guys, are you following me? I mean, uh, just what I want to understand is, like, sometimes what happens is everything is going away. I mean, it's not meeting us. So I hope that's not happening. You guys are following me. You are on the same page with me. You are understanding what exactly I'm speaking. Because if I directly start with one of the project, that would not make sense until and unless you understand these differences. Okay. Any questions here? Okay. So just to make you understand, like we have service consumer, okay, we have service providers. So if I talk more from real-time perspective, our service provider or the target systems which I can think of might be database, where the enterprise data is stored. There might be some file system, okay, there might be some other legacy application where your ultimately the data is stored, and the service consumer might be some, just hold on. Service consumer, if you think of service consumer in more technical perspective, it might be some portal which has been given for employees. Okay, it might be some mobile app or some XYZ things. So in between comes our this layer. Okay, we can say we use SOA layer, or we also call that this as a service layer. Okay, so just to give a unified mechanism for them to access the data or the information which is there in the target system, we use this service layer. For this service layer, we might use SOA suite, we might use OSB, okay, or we can say ESB. OSB is nothing, one of the ESBs given by Oracle, but there are other ESBs in also there in the market, and one of the ESB I talked about was the Mule ESB, which is also running good in the market. Okay, now with this OSB, you can connect to DB, which is nothing but database. You can connect to file system. You can connect to queues, that might be JMS queues or AQs. You can connect to e-business. You can connect to SAP. Okay, so whatever the adapters we had over there in our Oracle Source Suite, we can leverage all those adapters within the OSB to connect with different systems. So we need not to write any code to establish the connectivity, because because why this ESB layer or this mediation layer or this middleware is so popular, or why this is preferred in the market is, so that our individual enterprise applications can focus or can concentrate on their own development. They should not have a, they should not be worried about how to connect with other system. Because when we have this concept of web service, they can easily pass the request to either SOA suite or OSB, and OSB is smart enough to connect with varied different kind of systems. So a system which let's say needs to connect with 5 to 6 different systems need not to worry that how would I get connected with 5 to 6 different systems. That would be taken care by ESB. Just source system should know how to pass the request to ESB, and it should know that what is the format that ESB understands. So generally you will see ESB, okay, follows canonical design model, where what we say is, if you talk specifically about ESB, let's say there is a system A, okay, which connects with system B using ESB. That might be mule ESB or OSB. So our industry standard says that A system, or let's say C systems which gets added later, should pass the request to ESB in some standard format. So based on the different systems which are part of the enterprise, ESB comes with a standard canonical format. That format would remain same for the different systems, in which each of these systems need to pass the request, and then ESB will internally convert that request into a format which a target system understands. So canonical means some standardized format. So ideally you should design your ESB in such a way that it has some canonical design pattern, it has some canonical data model, and each system which needs to interact with ESB has to send the request in that format only. Then ESB would internally convert that request into a format which target system understands. Do you understand that part? So you would hear the terminology canonical schema many a time. So canonical schema is nothing but standardized schema. So in that standardized schema, I will include all the fields which different systems can send. Then internally, I will do the transformation and would fetch the details out of those fields and would map it to the interface of the target system. Okay. Any questions here? So we say, like, there is a topic called as, yeah. If someone was asking anything here. Okay. So when we talk about the OSB features, we say loosely coupled and overcomes P2P problems. P2P problems is point-to-point integration problems. Then we say it has the feature of service enablement. What does service enablement means? I have already spoken about this, but I didn't use this terminology. Service enabled means, let's say there is a system A which needs to talk with system B. Okay. Let's say B understands, okay, HTTP protocol. So, but A is sending the information in the using FTP protocol. So we have this OSB layer. In OSB layer, we have the support for different protocols. It is very much possible that source system can send the request using FTP protocol, and in OSB, while passing that request to the target system, we can modify the protocol to HTTP, and this would not require any programming. This is just configurable. So at the source system end and the target system end, we can have different protocols, and we can just interchange protocols. We can interchange format with the help of this OSB, and this is also called as adaptive messaging. So what is adaptive messaging? I mean, these are the jargons which we use, okay, but we don't understand the meaning. So adaptive messaging means any format to any other format. For example, what does that mean is, for example, I am getting the request in binary format, but target system understands the request in XML format. Then your OSB is smart enough to receive the request in binary format and do the conversion into XML format. And for such kind of conversions we use MFL, which is called as message format language. Okay, so adaptive and any to any protocol, which is nothing but service enablement. So I might get a request in one protocol, okay, but my target system might need to get the request in some different protocol. So that protocol conversion is possible with the help of OSB. So I told one of the feature of OSB is loosely coupled nature, service enablement, and another is backward compatibility. What is the meaning of backward compatibility? Let's say there's a system A, okay, with version 1.0, which connects with system B, and B is also 1.0. So this is a smooth integration, okay, which requires some minimal transformations. But let's say system B gets upgraded to 2.0. Now, but at A side there is no upgradation. Okay, so there was a system A which was talking with system B. Both were using 1.0 versions, where these were requiring minimal transformations, but at the B side they did some upgradation and a new version came in. So still I can continue with system A, but what I will do is I will do some here necessary transformations so that the request which is coming from A gets converted into a format which is understood by the upgraded version of system B, which is understood by the upgraded version of the system B. So there is a backward compatibility, and A can still talk with B 2.0 and it can talk with B 1.0, or we can say B 2.0 can still talk with A 1.0. So there is no change required at the A end. Okay, another feature we say OSB has is enrichment, which I already told. Okay, what does that mean is, let's say there is a request coming from A which is required to be passed to system B. Okay, now B needs, let's say, your user ID and date of birth. Okay, but from system A I'm getting only user ID, right? So my target system need two fields, but right now from my source system I'm getting only one field. So what I can do is, in between I can do service call out. Okay, service call out means it's like an invoke activity we have in Oracle source code. So what I can do is I can call some intermediate service. Okay, what this service call out will do, this service call out, it will fetch me date of birth based on ID. So once I receive the response from this call out, what I would get, DOB. The service call out is fetching DOB based on ID. ID was already there in my request. Now when I pass the message to B, I will include DOB which I fetched from the intermediate service with the user ID and would pass it to B. So that is possible. So I told the process of adding or removing elements from the message is called as enrichment. So here we are adding the elements so that it matches the requirement of the system B and the request can be passed successfully to the system B. Any questions here so far? Okay, another feature we say which is possible here is content based routing. So content based routing would mean something like let's say there is a system A which can connect to either B 1.0 or B 1.1. Okay, based on some decisions. So I have to take certain decisions over there. Based on that I will decide to which system I need to pass the request. So what I can do is, here on the basis of payload, which is, payload is nothing but your request message. Okay, on the basis of payload which is coming in your request, you can do some routing. Okay, you can just validate that data which is coming in, and you can just check it. Like for example, if in this request, let's say there is a field coming as location. Okay, there are order details which are coming in the request, and there is a field called as location. So I say if location is equal to US, please route the request to system B 1.0, and if location is equal to India, please pass the request to B 1.1. So this kind of content based routing can be also done within this OSB bus. Okay, and we also call as another feature location transparency. Okay, this location transparency means it is nothing but service pooling only. So for example, there is a system A which was supposed to talk with system B, but now B is unavailable. So I can configure one more system C which is more or less identical to system B, so that at my runtime itself my request can be routed to system C since my system B is unavailable. So A will remain unaware that whether my response came from system B or system C. A is only interested in response. A would not be knowing the location of the target system. Right? For example, this server, okay, might be hosted in US. This server might be hosted in India, but since these are giving identical response, so my source system would always remain unaware about that, because A is not having direct interaction with the target systems, rather it is having an interaction with the intermediary layer, that is nothing but your OSB layer, which would be always there in the picture. Any questions here? So guys, are you understanding how OSB is different from Oracle Source Suite, and what are the different features we have in OSB? Any questions? Okay. Now this all whatever we have discussed is the theoretical aspect about OSB. We can say this is OSB overview. Okay. So after this we have to discuss about OSB installation. Then there is OSB architecture. I'm telling you what all we will be covering in this training. I'm telling on a higher level. OSB overview, OSB installation to set up the environment, OSB architecture, then different components which we have in OSB. Then we will discuss about proxy service, business service, message flow, message context. Okay. Then we'll understand virtualization. When I say virtualization means it's nothing but how to connect OSB with SOA. Okay, we'll see integration with different systems, like we'll use DB adapter, we'll use file adapter, we'll use AQ adapter, we will use JMS adapter with this OSB. Apart from this, we will see the security aspect. How can we implement the security? We'll see error handling. We'll see reporting feature. Now, how can we use the reporting feature? How do we do the logging over here? We will see some another advanced features, like how to do service pooling, how to do message throttling. So this is what we are targeting on a higher level. Again, within this we have lot many subtopics. Okay, so today we are talking about OSB overview, and when I talk about OSB installation, so I will explain you the steps. Since you all are already working in Oracle Source Suite, OSB and Suite installation are more or less similar. So I will recommend that by the next session, whenever we meet, OSB installation should be complete in your individual machines. Okay. So now the next thing we will talk is the difference between DeepL and OSB, and then we will talk the differences between OSB and mediator, because these are some important interview questions which are asked. Okay, and ultimately all of you would come across some interviews when you're learning some new tool. Maybe those might be internal interviews or your external interviews, so you should have an idea about all these interview questions also. And first of all, any questions, anything which you want to talk here, maybe a technical or non-technical question, any problem with the teaching methodology, anything which you are not following?
Nothing much. but actually in installation, right? You're going to use Eclipse only, right?
Yes,
These
first.
sessions.
Yes, no, actually what we will be doing is for like as I told, I will be covering SUA 12C also. So for all the new features which came in SUA 12C, I will use SUA 12C setup, and for all the existing features I will use OSB Eclipse only. And when we switch to SUA 12C, 2 or 3 examples we can do it in SUA 12C JDeveloper also.
Yeah, you're saying right, like it's almost similar to SourceSuite setup, but I think OSB installation is completely different to our setup.
No, no, don't worry, I will tell you.
Plugin. Yeah.
I will tell you all the steps. I have already prepared the custom installation guides, okay, which has each and every screenshot with each and every, there is complete description about each and every step, and if you are getting stuck anywhere, I am there to help you. It's not something which is your task, okay? I'm not leaving that, but what I'm saying is instead of wasting time in our session, because this would take some time, I will explain you the steps, I will explain you the significance of the steps, and I will give you one installation guide first for OSB 11G setup, okay? You do it. If you get stuck, drop me an email or ping me, and I'll help you not only on the weekends, during the weekdays also. But we'll make sure by the time we meet next time, we have that setup with us. And once we finish that part, when we move to 12C, I will help you similarly for 12C installation also.
Sure.
Is that fine?
Yeah, great, that's fine.
Yeah, so
Okay. So going forward, now you guys have to tell me, I've already discussed the differences between Beeple and OSB. So just I'm writing one again here. It is stateful, one very important difference, stateless. And I hope at this point of time you understand the difference between stateful and stateless also. Okay.
Yes.
Next thing is, it is uh,
Beeple is long run. Yes.
yes, Beeple supports long running processes. Okay, it supports rule engine. Okay, when I say Beeple, okay, here we can say Oracle source suite also. Okay, so you can say it supports long running processes and also human workflows. But what do we do here in OSB? We do validation. Okay, if you forget anything about OSB, just remember that veto, VETO. Okay, so that will help you to remember everything once again. It can be used for validation, it can be used for enrichment, it can be used for routing. Okay, that might be a content based routing, it might be used for certain transformations, it can be used for throttling. Okay, so these are the few differences we have. Okay, and when I talk about OSB versus mediator, so these have some similarities also. If you understand OSB versus mediator, mediator is also used for doing the transformations, mediator is also used for doing the routing, but the only major difference we see is OSB is intercomposite, means when two different composites need to talk to each other, I can use OSB layer in between, but mediator is intra-composite, means it is used within composite only. Within composite only you use mediator component to basically make two or more components to talk to each other which are having different interfaces, right? In mediator can we do routing? Yes. In mediator can we do transformation? Yes. But in mediator we can make use of DVM, we can make use of cross-referencing, which is not possible in OSB. Okay, in mediator we can use DVM, we can use cross-referencing, but that we cannot use in OSB. But in OSB we again can use that throttling features, service pooling features, we have the reporting feature which is not there in mediator. Okay, any questions here so far? No. So now whenever we start working with OSB, okay, there are three terminologies which you will come across very frequently. One is proxy service, another is business service, and the third one is message flow. Okay, if you understand these three terminologies, okay, then it would be really good for you, because these would be the first and foremost questions which you will come across in an interview. Okay, what is proxy service, what is business service, and what is message flow? And just a note point here, in OSB 11G, proxy service and message flow are tightly coupled with each other. Whereas in OSB 12C, okay, actually, from 12C onwards, they don't call it OSB anymore. They call it as a service bus. That's it. Okay. Though people are using OSB 12C also, but the Oracle standard say we call it as a service bus. That's it. So here, these these two are different components. Which two are different components? Proxy service and message flow. Okay. Now I'll explain you how this works. So for example, there is a source system. Okay, when I say source system, more preferably we will use the terminology service consumer, because we are following the SOA principles. There is a service consumer now, and there is a service provider. Okay. Now who is that service provider? That is not my area of concern as of now. Now whatever I'll talk going forward, we will start talking less about SOA suite, more about OSB, because we are primarily here to learn OSB. So now I use OSB layer here. Okay. Now similar kind of diagram I explain when I use SOA, when I take my SOA trainings also. But when I focus more on SOA, again within SOA I have three layers: exposed services, service component, and external references. Yes or no? If you see the composer.xml, which is based on Scar architecture, we have exposed services, we have external references, and in between we have service components. Similarly, when I focus more on this, I would find that this can be further divided into three parts here also. Okay, this is my B, this is my A, which remains intact. But now when I try to understand OSB in a more detailed manner, I will see here we have PS. We have PS. What is PS? Proxy service. And with proxy service, I will do plus and MF. That is nothing but your message flow. And we have here business service. Okay. Since I told you that in OSB 11G, proxy service and message flow are tightly coupled with each other, that's why I use this plus symbol. And then you have your target system. So let's understand what is proxy service. I have been saying proxy service, but I didn't define it. What exactly is proxy service? So proxy, what do you understand by proxy? Which is not real, which is something called virtual, right? When we used to go to college, we will say that I did proxy for him. Means he was not actually present, but I gave it false attendance. So some false image of something. Okay, which is proxy means something which is not real, or proxy means the false image of something or the virtual image of something. So I can say proxy service is as good as virtual service. Okay, so it is the entry point to OSB. All the service consumers passes the request to OSB via proxy service. It is the place where messages are validated, enriched, transformed, etc. Okay, proxy service has an important component called as message flow associated with it. Okay, and within message flow we do all the validations, enrichment, transformations, etc. So note point is each proxy service will have one message flow associated with it. Okay, I am talking from the OSB 11G perspective. Each proxy service will have one message flow associated with it. So whenever you create proxy service, by default a message flow gets associated with it, or by default a message flow also gets created. Do you understand this part? So it is an entry point for your OSB. So if any service consumer needs to interact with the OSB layer, then they would pass the request to proxy service, or whenever I need to expose my OSB services to the service consumer, I will provide him the proxy service URL. So interaction of your source system will always begin with the proxy service only. Do you get that? Okay. And what is business service? But business service, it is an abstraction layer on the top of target system, okay, or it is a client on the top of target system, where we can configure the transport mechanism to be used in order to communicate with the target system. So I told you some time back that there is a feature called a service enablement in OSB. So what I can do is, let's say A is sending me the request using FTP protocol. So at the proxy service level, I can configure the FTP protocol. Then I can do the necessary transformations and the enrichment using message flow, and at the business service level, I might configure HTTP protocol, because my target system understands HTTP protocol. It cannot understand FTP protocol. A is sending me the request using FTP protocol. So that's why at the proxy service level, I used FTP protocol. Then I did the necessary conversions and I routed my request to business service. Okay, so target system will always have its interaction with the business service. Source system will have its interaction with the proxy service. Proxy service ideally will never communicate with the target system directly. Similarly, business service will never directly communicate with the source system. So within the OSB layer, we have three things: proxy service, message flow, business service. Business service is a layer on the top of the target system. All the interactions with the target system happens via business service layer, and all the interactions with the source system happens with the proxy service layer in the OSB, and the conversion of the messages happens with the message flow layer. This message flow layer is tightly coupled with the proxy service layer. So whenever you create a proxy service, a message flow also gets created associated with it, and there you can write the logic for doing the routing or transformations or enrichment, and then you will pass the request to business service. Proxy service will never directly interact with the target system. It's something like, can your expose the service directly interact with your target system? In Oracle SOA suite, can your expose the service directly communicate with the target system? Answer is no, right? You have external references layer, right, which talks with the target system, right? And in between you have some service components where you do the necessary transformations. So this message flow is more or less like a service component, but the only difference is this is tightly coupled with proxy service. So this is one of the disadvantages we had in OSB 11G, which they have tried to rectify in OSB 12C. In OSB 12C, they have made it a separate component so that multiple proxy services can use the same message flow, so that it becomes a reusable component.
Can you repeat that?
So earlier in OSB 11G, proxy service and message flow are tightly coupled to each other. Whenever I will create a proxy service, one message flow will get created. I create another message service, I create another proxy service. So for that proxy service also I will have message flow, but now in OSB 12c what they have done is that proxy service is just a layer which will accept the request from the source system. In proxy service you cannot do any enrichment, you cannot do any transformation. For that you have a separate component called as message flow. These are not tightly coupled anymore into LC. These have been decoupled so that your multiple proxy services can talk to single message flow if it is required, so that it becomes a reusable component. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So like how we have a mediator. So mediator is one component. Within mediator we can do the necessary transformations, but can mediator talk with two different exposed services or not?
Yes.
Yes, something like that. So do you understand what exactly is proxy service?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions here from anyone? So I'll talk about these terminologies once again. Here I just wanted to give you a high level idea because I want you should have some content to read about before we meet in the next session. So this is just an introduction about the basic, sub-components within Oracle SOA suite which will come across while, implementing the different use cases. Now the next thing I want to talk is about OSB installation, because I want to make sure that by the next session you should have the complete setup with you so that we can just get started. Whatever examples I tell you, you can replicate, or maybe you can do more advanced example at your end as an assignment.
So, USB, do we, I mean, so we have a SCAR components, right?
Yeah,
So
we
do we
don't,
follow the
we
same in USB also?
no,
No,
see,
right? We just,
actually SCA is an architecture, okay, and
yeah.
composite.xml is the implementation of that architecture, but here we don't use that architecture anymore. That SCA
We don't
architecture.
have any single component for to define all the services and departments, something
No,
like that.
actually SCA stands for Service Component Architecture, and which has two categories of components called as binding components and your what you say service components. But we don't have this because it is a service bus, that is a suite. So there they had to club different components into a single unit. That's why they use SCA. Here we don't have such different components, right? So what happens is why SCA was introduced. Even in SOA 10G there was no SCA. SCA concept was introduced only in SOA 11G because they had different types of components which they wanted to club together under a single unified development environment. Okay, and that's why the concept of SCA was introduced, so that we can leverage different types of components under single unified development environment. But here we don't have those different types of components. Do we have business rules engine? No. Do we have Spring context? No. Do we have human workflow, human task component? No. So that's why such kind of architecture is not required, which can club different categories of the components.
Okay, yeah.
Any other questions from anyone?
Uh,
Okay, so now we'll talk about the OSB installation part. Before I go to the OSB installation, I would like to know from your end that have you ever done SOA installation in your machines? Have you ever done SOA installation? Oh my God. Okay, guys, I think
Smith, are
I
you back?
lost. Yeah, yeah, I'm back. I thought
yeah.
I lost my voice. Okay, so actually today is Sunday, na, so a lot of people uses more internet. That's why I think this problem is coming. But I hope you're able to hear me clearly. Guys, can you hear me now? Guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, so what I was asking is, like, throughout my session, I hope you have been able to hear me clearly. I mean, I don't think there was any sort of break in the voice.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes it is getting disconnected, which I get to know. You know, the moment my voice is lost, I get a pop-up that your audio connection has been lost. Okay, so yeah, what I was talking is, like, have you guys ever done SOA installation in past?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to know from your end, okay, one by one, like what are the steps which you followed to do the SOA installation? Then I would move to OSB installation.
First we install database XC, then we have to install WebLogic,
No.
SOA
So,
Suite.
so see, before you start with any installation, let it be SOA installation or any other installation, you have to first understand some prerequisites, right?
Okay.
So there are two types of prerequisites. One is hardware prerequisite and other is software prerequisite. Okay. When we talk about the hardware prerequisites, I will recommend at least you should have 4 GB RAM. 3 GB would also work. Okay, but 4 GB would be really good. Apart from that, you should have i3 processor or anything higher than that. It works with dual core also, but I would prefer if you have a processor i3 or above. Okay. Now when we talk about the software prerequisite, first of all you should have JDK installed, right? So if you have JDK 1.7, it would work. Now once these prerequisites are over, now you tell me what was the first step you did? And one more thing before I proceed further, when you install JDK, you have to set the path in environment variables. I hope you know how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are done with this. Now we are talking about the SOA installation at first. So what is the step number one?
Database.
So yes, you should have database. Why do we need a database?
Store
The
the
schema, internal schema.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Schema and now.
Absolutely correct. So we need database because we need to create certain schemas. Okay, like if I talk about the SOA installation, we need SOA infra schema. I need MDS schema, right? I need Aura SDPM schema to support user messaging service. So that's why I created DB. So we can take a lightweight DB instance, that is XC we can install. Okay, so this step remains same for OSB also. So wherever the step would be same, I will write same. Okay, so that step would remain same. For OSB installation also, you will install XC. Just make sure that whatever port number, username and password you give, that all details you should keep handy, because these would be required later on in our subsequent steps of installation. Okay. Then next is step number 2. What is step number 2?
Run the RCU.
Great. So we have to run the RCU. RC stands for repository creation utility. Okay, so in this we have a lot of inbuilt, like we have the script to create the schemas, and those schemas would basically create your infrastructure. So for SOA we have certain schemas. Similarly for OSB we have different schemas. For OSB you need only two schemas, SOA infra schema and MDS schema. Now question is, why I need SOA infra schema and why I need MDS schema when I'm not storing any runtime details? Like in SOA I told we store the audit level details, right? We store the payload, but in OSB we are not storing all those things. Then why do we need SOA infra schema? And even in SOA 11 in OSB 11G, MDS is not supported. Then why we need MDS schema? So this SOA infra schema is required to basically support the reporting feature of OSB. So whenever you use reporting feature, okay, the details of those errors or whatever you want to log get stored into the database. So for that we use OSB, this ONF schema, that is also called as OSB JMS reporting provider. I'll explain you about this. So at this point in time, you can just have an assumption that this schema is required to support the reporting feature of OSB. Okay, so whenever we use the reporting feature of OSB, certain details are stored in our standard tables. That's why we need this schema. And next thing I told is MDS is not supported in our OSB. Then why we need it? Because if you understand SOA suite minutely, you should be knowing that MDS is not only used to store the shared artifacts, but also it is used to store the inbuilt policies. Have you heard about OWSM?
Yes.
Stands for Oracle Web Services Manager. So there are a lot of inbuilt policies which Oracle provides to basically secure your services. So in order to have that policies with us, we need MDS schema. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in, for example, in any production environment, also do we follow the same steps? Like
Yes.
something like, I
Yes.
mean, installing SOA and
See, there are two types of installations we do for OSB. One is independent OSB installation. Okay, which means there is no SOA. When I say SOA means Oracle SOA suite. There is no Oracle SOA suite coming into the picture. Right now the steps I'm telling is for Oracle's for independent OSB installation. But there is another type of installation which is installing OSB on the top of SOA. That is a different installation. We will discuss that as well. So right now we are talking about the individual OSB installation. Let's say we don't know about SOA. I have a project where we don't have Oracle SOA suite. We know only Oracle Service Bus. So for doing the Oracle Service Bus installation, whatever the steps we need to follow, I'm talking about those steps as of now.
okay, we don't have SOA, right?
Right. As of now, the steps which I'm telling you here, it will not have SOA. Okay, these steps are applicable for those environment where we do not have Oracle SOA suite. I will talk about one more installation where let's say we have Oracle SOA suite and on the top of
Yeah.
that we want to install OSB.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are done with the JDK. We are done with the DB installation. We are done with the RCU. What is the next thing we have?
Logic.
Logic admin.
Okay, we have to install WebLogic server.
SOA installation.
WebLogic server is the application server, okay, which remains same for both SOA as well as OSB. Okay, we will install WebLogic. So there is nothing tough about this. Just you have to click on next, next, next. Actually, it will be a jar file. Okay, when you get the installable for WebLogic, okay, my document has a link to get all those installables. It will be a jar file. So you have to run that jar file. How to do that is just go to the command prompt and go to the path where you have Java installed. So something, let's say it will be something like C program files. Okay, I'm just Java, then JDK, let's say 1.7. Within that we have been. Now here I will run command Java, which is executable file -jar, and the path where you have that installable, that jar file. Then your installer would run and you would get a GUI mode where you have to just click on next, next, next and finish, and there you will be creating your middleware home, something like C Oracle middleware, within which you will have your WebLogic server. Yes. So far, do you find any difficulty? I mean, in understanding the steps. See, we come across some issue that might happen even with the SOA installation. That is a different thing altogether. But do you find any difficulty in understanding the steps so far?
Oh, no, no.
Okay. Now we are done with the WebLogic server installation. What is step number 4 as per your SOA installation?
Domain creation.
So you get the SOA suite. Now I will get the OSB here. Okay. So when you get the OSB, what is there is you have two subfolders within that, right? Something like stage 1, I think, or maybe it's something like disk 1 and disk 2. Yes. Now within that we will have some
OSB installation or
no,
I mean,
even
you're talking about OSB.
no, I'm talking about SOA suite only.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, there will be two subfolders. Same happens with OSB also. Within that you will have some subfolders like Win64, Win32, and then you will have something like at the last you will have some executable file. Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
So from disk,
Yes.
same thing you have to do in the OSB installable. You will have two subfolders. You have to go to that exe file and you have to just run that exe file. When you run that exe file, okay, it will ask you some like path where you want to create your OSB home. OSB home. So ideally by default OSB home is in the like wherever you have middleware home. So for example, my middleware home was here. Within that your OSB home gets created. Okay, and all the artifacts related to OSB would get created within this OSB home. Do you understand this? When
Yeah.
will follow the subsequent screens while doing the OSB installation, it will ask you for OEPE. What is OEPE path? Oracle Enterprise
Thanks.
Pack or Eclipse.
Oops.
And it will also ask you the WebLogic server path. So since you are in the same middleware home, it automatically detects the WebLogic server path. But Oracle Enterprise Pack is something which we have not talked about. It is asking for Oracle Enterprise Pack. So before we run the OSB installable, okay, so let's say it is step 4.2, one step will be, which is nothing but step 4.1, get OEPE, which is nothing but Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse. It will be a zip file. It will be a zipped file. You just extract that zip file and copy into middleware home. Extract the zip file and copy into middleware home. Yes, once you copy
With the
into
same name?
yes,
Is it
everything
with the
you,
same
yes, you need not to change the
name?
name. Yes, you need not to change whatever is the name of the installable. With that name, a zip file gets created. You need to download that zip file. You need to extract that zip file, and that extracted OEP, you need to copy over here in this middleware home. So wherever you have OSB home, the same place.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you are going to run step number 4.2, which is nothing but OSB installation, it is asking us for two things. Path for Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse. So here you will have a browse option. So you have to browse to which path? You have to browse to that path where your OEP, extracted OEP is present, which is nothing but within the middleware home. And WebLogic server's path it automatically takes, and if it is not able to find, just browse to the path, and that path will be there again in the middleware home only. So your OEP and WebLogic server both would reside within the middleware home.
Sorry, actually we extract it and we copy it in the middleware home.
No, I'll show you.
What is the?
I'll show you. Just wait.
Yeah.
Okay, once I show you what exactly I'm speaking, you will understand better. So for example, here I have E. Okay, just hold on. Okay, so I have done the installation in E drive. This is my Oracle home. This is my middleware. Okay, within middleware I extracted OEP and I kept it over here.
Okay.
Okay, and this is my OSB home and this is my WebLogic server path. So when I was running the
Okay.
installable for OSB, I gave the path for this directory. WebLogic server path it automatically takes.
Okay, you're talking about when we run the
OSB installable.
e64 exe file. Okay.
No,
So then it will ask.
see, this is for OEPE. This comes as a zipped file and I just extracted it and I pasted it over here.
Yeah. Right. 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 When we run the OSB installer file, then it will ask for this path.
Exactly.
OEB and upload.
Exactly. Okay. Any doubts so far? So See, I would provide the installation guide also, don't worry about that, but I just wanted to understand the step. So once you are done with this OSB installation, what is the next step you do when you complete your SOA suite installation?
Domain creation.
Yes, the most important step is domain creation. Okay, so at what path you have to go for domain creation? So you have to go to OSB home. Okay, you have to go to OSB home, you have to go to common, and you have to go to bin, and there will be a file config.cmd. Okay, it will give you an option to create a new domain or extend an existing WebLogic domain. Now since we are talking about the from the scratch installation of our OSB where we don't have Oracle source code coming into the picture, so we'll go to the create a new WebLogic domain. We'll click on next. Okay, so it will ask us the domain name, right? So first what I have to install, I have to install Oracle Service Bus for developers. You can select Oracle Enterprise Manager if you want. Okay, and I have to use OWSM extension also, because I want the support for this policies also, right? So these are the options which I select, and I just move on to the next.
So we use VM also for Oracle Service Bus.
No, it's not required actually. If you want, don't use it. Okay, I have just selected it. In 11G it's not required actually. Oracle Enterprise Manager is not required
SB console.
because we have a SB console over here. Okay, Enterprise Manager is EM console.
Yes.
SB stands
Yes,
for.
I already installed Nova.
I will talk about those steps also, Bindu. I'll talk about those
Okay.
steps. So I think you got disconnected in between. What I told is we can have two ways of doing the installation. One is the scratch installation only for OSB, where I don't know what is Oracle source code. One other installation is we want to install OSB on the top of Oracle source code. Okay, because both uses the same application server, which is nothing but our WebLogic server. So we can have that type of installation also. So right now I'm talking about the steps for only OSB installation. So here you can give the domain name. So let's say I give something like this. Move on to the next. So here you have to configure the password and all, which you will be using for all your subsequent consoles. So this is the JDK which I'm using. I just click on next. Now you see here, I told you right, it will ask you the schema for OSB JMS reporting provider. I told you there will be a feature, right? So these are the two schemas only required for OSB domain. For OSB, we need only these two schemas. So when you create the domain, automatically only those schemas get populated which are required for that. So here you see we have OWSM MDS schema. That's what I told, that MDS schema is required for your policies, and we have a reporting feature where the runtime details, whenever you use that reporting feature, the details are stored into some standard tables. For that you need those two schemas. So here you can give the details, for example Oracle, and then password, whatever is the password. So for example for me it is this service name. Okay, so your connections with these schemas have to be successful. You click on next, and here you need not to configure anything as such. Click on next, and you have to create the domain. Your domain gets created. I'm not doing it since I already have one in place. So these are the steps to create the domain. So first step was JDK installation, second was to create the database, third was to run the RCU, fourth was to create the WebLogic server. After that you get the OEP and keep it in middleware home, then run the OSB installable and give the path for OEP, and then you have to do the domain creation which I have shown just now. Once you are done with the domain creation, you will have something like this. Uh, okay, this is the folder by default where your domain gets created. So you will go to user projects, you will go to domains. This is my domain, and within this, let's say I have bin folder, and there will be an option start weblogic.cmd. If you are using Windows machine, you start it and your server would get started. Once your server has got started successfully, okay, so you will be able to access different consoles. One console is EM console. If you have configured it, so make sure, let's say right now what is there in my machine is SOA is running separately, OSB is running separately. I have both in my machines, but both are different. For both I have different domains. So when you create two different domains, make sure you are not using the same port, because if you will use the same port, you cannot have both running at the same time. Okay, but I have to showcase you examples where I will be using both SOA as well as OSB. So that's why if you see, I'm using 7011 port for my OSB, and for my SOA I'm using 7001 port. So I have two enterprise managers. This enterprise manager is for my SOA and this enterprise manager is for my OSB. Similarly, this admin console is for SOA, and another admin console which I have is for OSB. Oh sorry, is for, here I done one thing wrong, just give me a minute. It should not be EM. Let me close it once. So first, this admin console is for SOA on 7001 port, and for OSB also I will have admin console. Instead of EM, I have to type here console. Okay, it's taking some time. Okay, now it's getting launched. And apart from that, one extra thing which we have is web-based console which supports OSB development. That is nothing but SB console, which will be there only where you have OSB installation. So here you see, this is what you have to type. Okay, host name colon port number slash SB console, and the moment you launch it, you will get one more console that is called as your SB console, where you can do web-based. This is a web-based console where you can do the development, and you will have direct deployment happening into the server. You need not to do any explicit deployment. This is an additional console we have for OSB. Are you guys following so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is not. This is only about installation when we do with scratch installation for OSB, but a lot of people what they want is they want OSB on the top of SOA. They say that I have complete SOA infrastructure ready with me and I want to build OSB on the top of SOA. So if your machine has enough space and everything, so I will recommend you to do one separate installation for OSB, and at the same time you can have OSB on the top of SOA also. Okay, like, so to do OSB on the top of SOA, what is required? Now let me tell you step by step. Do we need JDK for SOA or not?
Yeah.
So I need not to do this separately. Next is database. Do I need database for SOA or not?
Yes.
So I need not to do it separately. Then do I need to run RCU for SOA?
Yes.
Yes.
When I run that RCU, do I select SOA infra schema or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do I select MTS schema or not?
Yes.
Yes. So I need not to do again all this separately. Next is WebLogic server. Do I install WebLogic server in the case of SOA installation or not?
Yes.
Yes. So I need not to do this also separately. Now OEPE, which is nothing but Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse. Do I have this in case of SOA?
No.
No. So you need to do this explicitly. You need to get this installable. So basically this is a zipped file. Okay. You need to extract this zip file, and where do you need to place it? Place it in middleware home. Which middleware home? The same middleware home which your SOA is using. Okay, where you already have your WebLogic server, in the same middleware home, place this OEPE and make sure you have extracted it. Now the next thing is you have to run the OSB installation. So OSB installation, as I explained just some time back, would be same. It would ask you for the WebLogic server path. So that would be automatically detected, or you can just browse to the same WebLogic server path which you are using for SOA and give the path for OEPE. Up till here everything remains same, and after that next thing which you have to do is while creating the domain. So while creating the domain, we will not create a new domain. Rather, we will extend the existing domain. We will extend the existing domain which is being used by SOA, or which has been configured for your SOA. So when I had run the domain sometime back, it was giving it was giving me a option to extend that domain. So when you choose that option, you need to browse to the domain which you want to extend. Okay, once you are done with that, just the steps would remain same which I showed you. Okay, the steps would remain same.
Is there any specific version or something like for this?
Yes, actually see, there is a compatibility matrix. Okay, there is a certification matrix which we need to follow. So we will prefer OSB 11.117. Okay, for SOA also we have 11.117. So what I'll do is I will give, when I will complete this session, I will share one Excel file, okay, which has the complete compatibility matrix, and within my document also I have given the link for only those installables which are compatible with each other. Okay, so like for OEP we will use 11.118, that is compatible version with OSB 11.117. Okay, for WebLogic server we will have WebLogic server 10gr3. So there is a compatibility matrix which is there, so that complete zip file I'll be sharing across. You can start with the installation, and please make sure if you're getting stuck, reach out to me. Okay, we'll help you. We have a session on next Sunday, doesn't mean that we cannot talk in between. We can definitely talk, maybe via an email or via WhatsApp. That is more preferred, but if there is something urgent, you can give me a call. I'll be there to help you. So these are basically things which we need to take care of, so that once we have the setup, then we can start with the hands-on example. So in the next session we will understand what are the different like how we have activities in the beeple. Similarly here we have different components and activities in the message flow. So we'll talk about those, and we'll start using few of those in our next session.
Sumit,